Hi guys, so this is a stem and leaf plot. So first thing I want you to draw your attention to is this part here. So it says in this box that the leaf is always the last digit and the stem is always the rest of the number. So first thing I want to show you anyway, if we had the number 52, so I'm just making up a number. In that case, the leaf would be the 2 part, and then the stem would be the 5. So leaf would be 2 and stem would be 5. So leaf is just always the last one, whatever the last one is. So if I had 38, then the leaf would be the 8 and the stem would be the 3. That might seem kind of obvious, but if we had a number like 127, then because this is a 3-digit number, the leaf would just be the last digit again, but the stem this time would actually be 1 and 2. It would be 12 basically. So it's just that's the first thing you need to remember anyway. The same as if you had, because you could be asked to do a stem and leaf plot with decimals. If I had 31.7, then the leaf will still just be the last digit, so the leaf would be 7 there and the stem would be 31, and then you'd kind of sort out the decimal part when you're putting in your key at the end. So a stem and leaf plot looks kind of something like this. So you might need more rows then, depending on what the data kind of looks like. But basically, we're going to put our stems down on the left hand side here, and we're going to put all of our leaves in here like this. So it'll make more sense once we're going through it. The steps over here on the left hand side are number 1, you put the first digits of each piece of data in numerical order down the left hand side. Then you go through each piece of data in turn and put the remaining digits in the proper row. Redraw the diagram, putting the pieces of data in the right order, and then add a key. So let's have a look at the example. Here are the marks gained by 30 students in an examination. So if we try and interpret this, all it means is that one student got 63 marks, one student got 58 marks, one student got 61 marks, one student got 52 marks, and so on. So those are each of the marks of all of the students in the class. So there's 30 different marks there. So we're going to try and put this into a stem and leaf plot now. One thing I want to look for first is the smallest number, or well, the smallest amount of marks and the highest amount of marks. So if we look for the smallest amount of marks there, I think the smallest one is 40. I don't see any marks that are lower. I don't see any marks in their 30s. So I think 40 is the lowest mark. And then the highest mark would be 81, I think. So the lowest mark is 40 and the highest mark is 81. So these are important because it actually shows us what our stems are going to go from. So it tells us, and our stems are going to be what we put in first. So we're going from 40 all the way down to 81. So everything is between 40 and 81. Therefore, the stem of 40 would be just 4, because the leaf would be 0. The leaf of 81 would be the 1, so the stem has to be the 8. So if you think about it, our stems will go from 4 all the way down to 8. So it'll be 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And if you think about it, there's no numbers in that, so there's none of those marks are would have a different stem. None of them would have a stem of 3, or none of them would have a stem of 9. So we can put in our stems then. So first one would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we don't need the bottom one really. Next then is where we're going to put in our leaves. So I'm going to take all of the numbers that are in their 40s, and I'm going to put their leaf here like along there. So the first one anyway would be 40. So 40 would have a leaf of 0, and then a comma goes next. So you're going to separate each of your leaves then by a comma. So we've got so 40 is kind of put in already then. So we've got 44 there, and we've got 49. So those are all gone. Then next we're going to put in our leaves for the 5. So everything in their 50s, and I'm going to put them in order as best I can. So we've got 53 there. So 3 goes in there like that. We've got 54. So the 4 will go in there. We've actually got a 52 as well that I didn't see. So that would go in there like that. So we've got a 50. We've got two 57s. We've got a 58. And we've got two 59s. So I think those are all the ones in their 50s. 60s then, there's a good few in their 60s as well. I think there's a 61 anyway. So 1 will go in there. There's definitely a 63. Well, there's two 63s. There was another 61 actually as well. So we should have had 2 1s in. I don't think there's any 64s, so 65 is there. There was a 64 actually that I didn't see as well. Um, 68. There's two 68s. And then I think there's a 69. There's another 65 there as well actually that should have went in the middle. And then I think that's it. So there's a lot of 60s there, so you just have to be careful and try not to make any mistakes. So then 70s should be a little bit easier. There's a 70 anyway, so the leaf for that would be just 0. There's two 70s actually. And then there's a 74, a 75, and a 76. So 4, 5, and 6. And then you've got an 80. And then we've got an 81. And then we've got another 81 that we circled as well. So that's pretty complete then. The last thing that it said over here in our notes, we need to put in a key. So a key is actually, it's like it's something that's going to tell you about a little bit about the assembly. So what we need to do to make a key is you need to take any one of the digits. So now generally people kind of pick the first one here, 40, alright, but you can pick whatever one you want. So just for the sake of it, I'll just pick one in the middle here. So I'm just going to take 63, and then I'm going to basically explain what 63 is. So 6 and then the line and then the tree, because that line here represents the line, this line basically. That represents 63 marks. And that's basically what a key is then. It's where you just take one of the pieces of data and you just kind of say what it is. So 6 line 3 equals 63 marks. So that's really what a key is. So that's the stem and leaf plot drawn. Now I'm going to figure out a couple of different things. So I'm going to work out what the mode is. Don't know why this is jumping around. I'm going to find out the range, and I'm going to find out the median of the stem and leaf plot. So the mode anyway, if you haven't seen mode before, then look back at what mode is. You should hopefully know that mode means the most common. So the most common amount of marks in this stem and leaf plot, and you could look back up here at the numbers in this case that are given to you in the table and just look at what's the most common one. But sometimes in exams they'll give you just a stem and leaf plot as it is, as it's drawn already, without you having to draw it, and then you'll be asked to read it off what the most common mark is. So for this case, we can see that I don't think there's any mark that, so you've actually got a good few different modes, because you'll see there's two 265s there, there's 268s there, there's 259s there, there's 257s there, but there's no mark that 3 different students got, if that makes sense. So the mode for this one, it's actually going to have a good few modes. So that, you could write down it's going to be 70, 65, 68, 57, 59, 81. So all of those occur twice. So this is a bad kind of example to show you what the mode is, but generally speaking, there probably won't be in most stem and leaf plots, depending. There might not be loads of different ones that come up at the same amount of times. The range, anyway, the range is a little bit easier. The range, you should know already, hopefully, that it's the biggest take away the smallest. So if you look at this and try to interpret it, the biggest amount of marks will always be the one down at the bottom, furthest over to the right. So in this case, it's 81 marks, and the smallest is 40 marks. It'll always be the one up at the top left. So to find the range here, you just do 81 take away 40, which is 41. So the range is 41 marks. The median then, I left this to last because we need to kind of draw on the diagram. The median means the middle number. So if you have a list of numbers, then you cross them off from both sides, and the median will be the one that's exactly in the middle. So this stem and leaf plot is actually ordered already, because the smallest one is up here, and it goes this way, and then it gets to the biggest one down here, which is 81. So I'm just going to cross off the smallest amount of marks and the biggest amount of marks, and then the next smallest, next biggest, next smallest, next biggest, next smallest, and you need to be careful, then that 176 will be the next biggest, and I'm going to get a median then somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to keep going. And I can see there then that 63 is the one that's in the middle. So 63 marks would be my median there. So I've worked out the mode, the range, and the median from the stem and leaf plot. So here's another one. If you want to just pause the video and have a go at this one, you can draw it, and if you want to then try and find out the mode, the median, and the range. As well. So if you want to just pause the video and have a go at it, and then I'll run through it quickly afterwards. So with this one anyway, you'll notice that you've got a 0 as your stem. So they've actually put in the stems for you to help you. You must put in a key at the end, but the 0, hopefully you'll realize the 0 will just be the single digits, because you'll see there's a 9 in the table, but 9 is the same thing as 0, 9, or that might hopefully sound obvious. So if we're putting them in order, any of the single digits, there's a 7 there. I don't think there's anything smaller than that. And then there's an 8, and then there's 2 9s. And I think that's all the single digits then. Then there's 2 10s there. So we have to put in 0 twice, because that's the leaf of 10. There's another 10 as well there actually. So 3 10s. Next smallest is 12, so we put in a 2. Next smallest is 15, and there's 2 of them. Next smallest is 16, so we put in a 6, and then there's a 17. And then there's an 18 and a 19, so there's a lot of them in there in the teens. In the 20s then, so there's 2 21s, so we put in 1 twice. There's 23, and then there's a 28. Then there's, in the 30s, there's a 30, so leaf is 0, and there's a 32. And that's everything then. So that's the stem and leaf plot drawn. We have to put in a key then. So here it says at the very first sentence that here are the ages in years of some members of a swimming club. So if I just pick any one of these, then I'll just pick the first one just for handy in a sec. So 7, so 0 7, so 0 line 7 equals 7 years, or you could say 7 years old if you want. Doesn't really matter what you put in after, as long as you're describing what it is. So 0 line 7 equals 7 years, or 7 years old. Then the mode anyway would be the one that comes up most. So I think clearly there's 3 different people or members of the swimming club who are aged 10, and I don't think there's any leaf there that appears more often. So you see that 9 appears 3 times, but they're on different rows. So those 2 at the top, they're both 9 years old, but this person down here, they're 19 years old. So therefore those 3 9s don't count. But because these 3 zeros are on the same row as each of them, their stem is 1, then that's showing that there's 3 different students that are 10 years old. So 10 years old would be the mode. The median, I'll leave that to the end because I have to kind of cross off everything. The range would be the biggest one. So the biggest one here, or the biggest age, is 32. So the person oldest in the swimming club is 32. The person youngest is 7, because 7 is the first one in it. So 32 take away 7 is 25. The median then, this is where we need to be careful and cross off from the smallest and the biggest. So the smallest is 7, biggest is 32, next smallest is 8, next biggest is 30, next smallest is 9, next biggest is 28, and then I'm going to keep going. And what actually happens here then is I get 2 in the middle. So 15 and 16, and then when you get 2 in the middle, you just add them and divide by 2. So 15 plus 16 is 31, divided by 2 is 15.5, or 15 and a half. So 15 and a half is or 15.5 is the median age of people in the swimming club.